buddy. First off, I want to thank Tide Wee for paying for the show. If you need a pair of boots, a pair of waders, new backpack, some hunting rain gear, look them up. They got some good stuff. For those of you guys wanting to hunt like a beast, but not wanting to get your clothes soaked and not wanting to be soaked up in the stand, Tide Wee has some new waders for you. These are thinner than the other ones. They're neoprene, so they keep you warm, but they're still thin. But you can get longer distance with them, and they're built really well. I've been testing them out all morning, running around through the swamp. I really like them. They seem pretty well built. I haven't had any leaks or anything, and I'm really going through some thick and nasty stuff. I want to thank Tide Wee for funding this show. And these are low-cost products for just average guys like you and me. If you need a pair of waders, you want to get back into the swamps, look at the link below the video. Give them a shout. Thanks. It's going to be fun getting out of here tonight. Whew. Not much of a trail. From here through the swamp. As I approached, I'm about 100 yards from my intended spot. This is a satellite spot, and there's the bed right there, tucked up underneath there. And he just jumped out and crashed through here. And we're going to be sitting 100 yards over there. This is a satellite spot, and generally, if something's in the satellite spot, there's a good chance that something's taken over the main bedding area that won't let this deer bed there. Otherwise he'd be in the primary bedding. So actually kicking a deer out of here doesn't depress me. It makes me feel good about this spot. Wanted to stop here and take a break because I've been just busting my butt to get back here in time to hunt, because this is a mile back and really rough terrain. And by the time I got to the parking spot, it was probably 20 to 4. So I really rushed to get out here. I want to be on stand by 5, and I've been rushing. And I just got to take a second and slow down here and just sit back for a second and slow myself down. Or if I keep going and try to go slow, I'll just crash through the stuff. For me, I just have to stop for a minute. I'd rather lose 2 or 3 minutes on the stand than to push through this stuff and this last 100 yards and make a noise and spook those deer out. At least I got some wind cover though. Okay, I'm finally set up. Got all these oaks back here. None of them are dropping now. There's some sign of deer coming out, not a lot. Not as much as when there's acorns in here. But I've got high hopes anyways. We stacked this spot by hunting in the back here in the bedding areas and pushing the deer this way. And then there was other hunters that hunted over there too, pushing them this way. And now it's the 4th day of the season, and there's a lot of hunter sign over there. So I'm pretty sure we got this pretty well stacked. And the primary bedding is right there where those bushes are in the cattails over there. Off of this tip. I'm at the first oaks. This spot's been a pretty good spot. James shot my son James shot a real big buck right here. And as it walked that edge out of the bedding, and I was sitting over there and I saw the buck after he shot it, but we never recovered it. It was really a heartbreaker, but it was a big one. I shot my albino doe out of this spot. It came out of doe bedding from over there and came in. I shot a couple nice 8-pointers out of here, and I've seen some monsters in here. This is a really good spot. This is the exact same spot where I passed on that 2-year-old 6-pointer about this time last year, and that was the last time I hunted this spot. I hunt here about once a year. It's about the most remote spot out here, and all the bucks kind of get pushed back in here and everything else is full of water. This is completely surrounded by deep water. You have to half swim out here, and it's about a mile from parking. So last year that 6-pointer came through here like this, right down here, and that trail is still being used pretty heavy. I can see it indented into the grass, and I got a good shooting lane. I'm on the opposite side of the tree this year, and there's a couple good trails coming through here, and I can see a trail going into the bedding along those trees along the edge there. And I know there's good bedding up on that tip too, but the main bedding is right at those bushes. There's guys in a motorboat over there driving around like crazy. There they are, I just saw them go through. Right next to the bedding area. Kind of crazy that they're this far back. They're not hunting because they're in there talking really loud. It's a long walk to have a motorboat go past your bedding area. The boaters got within 100 yards of me and within 75 yards of the bedding, and no deer moved the entire night. Holy crap. I'm moving in on a shooter from last year that I scouted in the winter and found his bedding area. I'm getting closer and I'm getting into the area where he lives, and look at the sign I'm finding. Holy crap. Look at that, where the ground's ripped up, and he broke that tree right off rubbing it. And that one's broken off there, and that one. There's branches broken on those trees. There's one over there broke. Target acquired. Let's go get that buck. Oh, there's big rub marks on this tree too. Look at the marks in that tree. Oh, look, and it's all rubbed up there too. Holy cow. We need to kill this thing. See where I'm going when I come back here. So I picked a weekday when I didn't think anybody would be back here. Parking lot's empty. Nobody's doing much. Got out here real early. Took me a long time to get out here. I'd have to say it's probably after 4. And I left a long time ago. I had to wade through deep water, through cattails, through brush, through briars. It's a long walk back here. But the further I went, the more sign I hit. I hit a lot of sign as I got close here, and the beds are right there, and the heavy trail comes out like this under here, and there's some giant fresh rubs right back here, and there's another trail that goes along there, and I'd have to think we're going to see something. Hopefully a good buck comes in, hopefully it comes in before does or something comes in and spooks or something. I had to access on the trails, it's so thick behind me, so I hope one doesn't spook and run back in or something. But I'm excited about tonight's hunt. First time ever sitting in this tree. And I came back here and I scouted in wintertime. And when I looked over at those beds, I could tell they were pounded early season when I couldn't find my shooter bucks. And I knew they were in this vicinity because they're getting pictures over there, they're getting pictures over there, and they had to be in here somewhere. So I came in here scouting, and that area right there was tore up, but from earlier in the year. You can tell by the foliage and stuff, they're not bedding there once the leaves fall. And there was a ton of sign in here. So if it's not now, it's in a couple of weeks this will pick up, but I think they're in here now. There's sign out here and it's just starting to pick up, the trail starting to get heavy. There's big tracks on it. It's coming from bedding. I have to think they're in here now. You know, really, when you look at these public lands and you come out here, think about how many trees there are on this land that you could put a tree stand into. There's got to be millions and millions of trees on this property. But yet the buck I'm after will probably in daylight only go by 1, 2, 3 trees. If he moves real early, maybe a half dozen that are shootable trees. It is literally getting the right tree. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. To get the buck that you're after to go by the tree that you're in daylight. You think about it, it's really kind of crazy that we even pull it off at all. Fields. So I set up with that doe 20 yards from me. She never knew I was here. So a little while later, a fawn popped up about 22 yards up from my stand. And then about 10 minutes later, a doe popped up on the point that I was on the very point of the grass, out in front of me. And it let out a little bleat and the fawn went running to it and started nursing. Then I started hearing sloshing coming from the buck bedding area, coming up the trail. And the doe started feeding towards me. And instead of taking one of the trails around it past me, it went right into the bushes underneath me. And it got to the point where I couldn't see it. I was only up about 10, 15 feet in a bush of a tree, but I couldn't see through the canopy underneath me of thick brush, but I could see the brush moving where she was feeding. And then she popped out right underneath me. needless to say, after all that commotion, I didn't hear that buck or see that buck after that. You ready for this?
Well, let's kill it over at least.
Well, we might see a good buck in there.
Yeah, well,
There's been a lot of good bucks in this property.
Oh yeah, one of the biggest ones we ever shot with. Well, that was the
Biggest one we got on public land, I think.
Yeah.
At least close to it.
Biggest one with a gun.
Yeah.
You shot the biggest though.
Right. Well, that's different.
Yeah, that was a big one.
All right. We're gonna hunt an easy spot today, dry land walking. And we might run into some briars though. We'll see. Got Dave here with me. We got Dave into this little tiny tree here. His stand is only 8 feet off the ground. There's a little hole over there and a little hole over there. And there's a heavy sign coming out and all this stuff is browsed down. And I'm going to go around on that side. There's a veterinary over there. So, little tiny tree. There's Dave there in that tiny tree, 10 feet up. The deer trail comes right through here. And another one comes back and around over here. And all these plants here are all browsed down to nothing. Everywhere. Tons of deer sign. And this is where some big ones were bedding. I pre-scouted them. We ended up going a little too far. My setup used to be right over there. But we came in here funny through this really thick stuff and we busted out in front of the spot. And because of that, we couldn't go back and set up. We had to set up over here. But I'll set up over there. He'll set up over here. We should have action. Hopefully we didn't make too much noise because we're really close to the deer. Look at that browse. Everything in here is browsed down. This is good. There's deer tracks everywhere. You look at all the muddy tracks over there. Oh, look at this trail here. So I gotta be able to cover this one and cover out. So I want to cover that opening. I just gotta figure out what tree to get into. And me and Dave will both have this bedding area covered pretty good. But again, all these plants in here just browse down like crazy. I planned a little hunt, easy to get to today, and it was a lot harder than I thought. The easy way had some hunters blocking the trail, and it whistled for me to go around, so I went all the way around and came in from a different way, and I had to go through a mile of briars. I mean, it was just nuts. I got Dave set up right over there. I'm set up where a bunch of trails come together, and this is a hot area, and the bedding's right over there. But man, there was nothing set up, and it's so thick in here. The trees are so nasty and branchy. It was hell getting set up, and I made a lot more noise than I wanted to. And I got a main drag that goes right through here, and another trail comes around over there. But there's a lot of deer coming out of there, and there's another trail that comes out around that way, and that's where Dave is. So it's really way more quiet out here than I'd like to. So it's possible they heard me and I spooked them, but it was do or die. So I'm set up now. We'll see what happens. This is kind of bottomland. It's not underwater, but there's a drainage creek over there, and bucks bed along the ditch dike a lot. I've tracked a lot of big bucks back to that spot and looked at their beds. And Dave's over there. There's like an island that comes up. It goes back, and a lot of guys hunt on that island up where it's open woods. This end is all briars. But there's several squirrel hunters and other hunters in the back right now. And it's not that big of a property, but it always holds big bucks. This is the same property where we were hunting, where the 8-pointer came in, but that was back by the road, by the parking lot. This is way in the back. I feel good about this. I think I might have got away with it, but I made a lot of noise. So we'll see what happens. It's a screwed up setup. I'm in a nasty box elder that's all branchy. I couldn't even get my camera arm on right, so I got it above my head. It's the only place it would work. Dave's setup was pretty screwed up too. A little tiny tree, and he's right on top of the deer where they pop out. But we'll see. See what happens. It's getting so late, I'd expect movement any time now. So I heard some branches snapping there. Dave's right over there. And they came this way and never came out. And then I saw a deer on the other side of this opening work a little scrape. I think it was a small buck, but I couldn't see antlers. And then as it walked away, another buck came out and I could see a rack on, but it's fuzzy in that little hole, so I couldn't tell how big, but it wasn't big. It was small. But it worked a scrape and then followed the other buck. The funny part is they went back the way they came from. It's a good sign though, we're seeing deer. It's pretty early. Those two little bucks just left and went that way. And 5 minutes later, I just got a glimpse of a deer run through that opening towards him. I don't think it got my wind or anything. I never heard it downwind. It just seemed to be like randomly running. Yeah, the wind's perfect. Somebody got one. We got a lot of squirrel hunters back here. Man, I'd have to think those deer are going to come through here. I don't know why they went back in there. I think if we don't have any action over here, I think I need to move back over by that scrape and see what's going on over there. There's a good little funnel over there. I used to hunt there about 8 or 10 years ago. Who hunts squirrels during deer season? Really? Put some antlers on them and maybe. The rest of the night was uneventful. We have dinner. Look at that. Puffballs. Hiding in the grass. See, hunting pays off. I brought home dinner today. I'm at Dave's farm. I'm at the little food plot in the corner up against a little bedding area. There's a better bedding area across the hill from me where I found that big shed last spring. This is the bedding area that one antler buck came out of twice. It's the main bedding area on this property. And pretty good rubs sitting here. Holy crap, look at that. Oh! Oh! That's a good one. I think that's off the 10-pointer. Sure enough, but it's last year's. Holy crap. That's the buck we've really been hunting back here. Everything kind of stages down here. I hunted this once last year. About the same time frame, didn't see nothing. There's a little bit of sign down here though, so it looks like there's some deer hanging down here. I set up a stand on the other end of the farm, over at the far end, where deer stage coming up into a cornfield. Looks like a pretty hot spot. Dave went over there. It's gonna be the first time that spot's ever sat. This spot gets sat about once a year, every year. I've killed a deer or two here, but I can see deer for quite a ways. I brought my binoculars along this time, something I rarely do. And then when they're in the distance, maybe I can tell what they are. That buck I saw yesterday, I could tell it had a rack, but I couldn't pick it apart on how big it was. So I can see for about 300-400 yards all the way in front of me. And if any bucks come out anywhere in there, I'll be able to see them with the glasses. This is the little plot we put in. There's a bedding area right over there, and a bedding area right over the hill. Look at how that branch grew in here. That didn't used to be there. Now I gotta pick little holes through the chute, but I don't want to cut that because that's an apple tree. We've been wanting to move this stand over a little bit. Now those trees over there are starting to get big enough. Probably next year it'll have to get moved if we continue hunting this spot. Grapes. A small deer just ran out of the bedding area here, across there and into there. I don't think it got my wind. My wind's going that way. Not sure what spooked that deer. one's going like this. Maybe Dave spooked it. Dave's over that way. This is the milkweed that I picked on opening day, which was, 7 days ago. It's dry now already, on its own, just being in my pocket. The rest of the night was uneventful. Today I'm hunting a little hidden overlooked spot. I've never hunted here before for deer. I found this spot turkey hunting. I was driving down the highway looking for turkeys along the public land, and I was going to hunt the other side of the road, and I looked over and I saw turkeys over here, and I knew there's a little piece of public over here, and I thought, wonder how close it gets. Maybe I can call them over. And I started studying the maps and realized there's a little sliver of public over here that nobody really knows about. It's kind of totally overlooked, and even if somebody figured it out, they got to get across this canal, and it's right next to the road where people wouldn't look. And in here looking for turkeys, this was just loaded with big buck sign, and we even kicked one up that looked like a good buck. So I got some trees picked out in here, and the hardest part is waiting for the right wind. Kind of need an east. Today we got a straight south. It's not east, but it's doable. So I'm heading in. See what happens. Man, that stuff stinks. Look at that. That's disgusting. It smells even worse than it looks. I wish we could give you a smell video. Whew. Okay, I'm approaching my tree here. I wanted to show you this. I don't know what this plant is. Maybe one of you guys do. If you do, put it in the comments below. But this plant with these orange flowers, real watery and hollow inside. They love this stuff early season, and it grows right next to bedding areas, so they come out of the bedding and feed on this stuff. And right here I got a pile of it just mowed, just busted down. You know, it's been eaten like crazy. There's a trail over there. The whole trail is browsed through like a highway. Oh, I think I'm going to try and get up this tree here. Maybe that one or that one. I'm going to have to get over there and take a look. I got a wind coming like this. It seems to me like the deer are coming from that way. There's apparent bedding over there, and I jumped a good buck, at least what appeared to be a good buck during turkey season, right over there out of a bed. And I called it before it even jumped. I said, that looks like bedding, and then a buck jumped out of it. It's like this ground comes to a point over there, and then goes into the low watery cattail brush, and then there's like a strip of dogwood, and then it goes into another point onto private land. And in that dogwood, I thought that'd be good bedding, and that's where that buck jumped from. And there's a trail that just comes through here like this, and I got crops behind me. I like this. I think they're staging here before they move on to the crops. So I just got to figure out which tree to get into. Alright, I ended up hee-hawing around a little bit, but I chose this tree here. I like that I could get between the two trees, put my back to this tree, and be able to shoot down to that opening back here, and over in here, and over in here. And I think that tree would have not given me as much cover, and this would have kind of blocked that opening where I think they're going to end up. So we're only about 16, 17 feet high, but I think that's perfect. If we get any higher, we'll be silhouetted. All right. I'm set up and ready to rock. There's the cattails are over there. The road's over there. You can kind of see houses. And you can see an island of land over there. The other side of that's crop fields. And I can hear tractors in the fields, which means the deer are going to naturally come this way. And this is the way I was hoping they're going to go to the crops over there, where there are no tractors. And there's a lot of sign going that way. There's trails coming through here, trails coming through here, and that main trail right there is what I expect them on. I mean, you can see where there's turned up leaves and stuff from them feeding heavy in here. This is pretty good. Might have a hard time spotting them until they pop out though, so I got to be on the ready. I got my stand wedged right between these two trees. And notice what I do here. I don't have a giant pack underneath my stand. Like some guys want those big packs that you wear with the stand on it. What happens with those is the deer see it hanging there. It's too big of a blob. You got to blend in. Even when I'm up here and a deer comes out, I got to get my back against the tree and blend in, which is why I'm wearing my flannel on the inside instead of on the outside, and I got this camel over the top, is because I am wide open here. And in a lot of cases, these spots, it is literally picking the pin out of a haystack, because look, where am I going to set up in there? This is what public land looks like. You get one or two trees. Where those big trees are, right there's bedding. Just the other side of these trees, that's bedding. The deer are going to come in like this, and this is where I got to set up. I can't cut the forest down, so I got to take what I got. Literally, when you shoot a deer out here, generally you're in the one tree you can do it out of. Sometimes they get further, I get that, but sometimes they don't. And for this spot, this is the tree I need to be in. I mean, literally, I could probably get away with that tree. That's it. 2 trees out of this whole swamp, if this comes together. You ready? Sounds like there's some giant equipment rolling up on us right at prime time. Well, prime time, and a bobcat came through the cattails on the private land about 100 yards from me, right in the border of the public. I can't believe a bobcat can get through cattails. It got stuck at least once real bad. Only 100 yards from me, back and forth. Wah, 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 wah. Finally, I just got down. It was going through the bedding and everything. I'm not done with this area, though. There's a lot of big sign in here. And that guy might have messed this up for today, but there's something going on in here. Coming out, I see these old rubs here on this trail. And I look down, and there's a big track right there. And another big track right there, and there's a big track. So something's running this back and forth, something big. It might take a while for this to settle down after that bobcat went through all the cattail bedding. But further back there looks like even better stuff where I haven't even scouted yet, looking at a map. So a lot of stuff over here that hasn't been hunted. I'll be back. Most people want to hunt deer in the woods. They want to use climbers, they want to use regular tree stands and stuff, but really deer are creatures of the edge. They live on the edge. And when I go out and I make my setups and I'm thinking, this is probably the only tree I could set up and kill this deer out of. I think, how would somebody who limits themselves with equipment and stuff hunt here? And most people I see don't get that. You really got to creep that edge and push that edge and get as close as you can, because a lot of those big bucks I see only get that 100, 150 yards in daylight. And if you're not in the tree, you have a hard time killing them.
The tree.
Yeah. So really, you know, everybody wants to hunt out in the woods, and in some terrains that works, like in hill country or something, on the you know, in forests. But when you start getting into any kind of mixture land that's got grasses and swamps and cattails and stuff, they're on the edge. They're in the brush, they're not in the woods. And there are very few trees you can hunt out of. And when you look at that vast entire forest, there might be one tree you can be in that evening with that wind that'll work for that buck.
My experience is when hunting the edge, I've seen bigger bucks.
The more mature ones in daylight.
The more mature ones in daylight. When I've been hunting in the woods, I don't see the mature ones.
I think that's a big difference between us and a lot of these newer guys coming into hunting that are struggling and aren't seeing deer, because we're seeing a lot of deer. Yeah. It's that they're not hunting those edge type terrains, and really there's not very much edge out there, really. And yet we seem like we're alone out there when we're on the edge, but there's a lot of hunters out there. Right. And they're all in the woods or on the food sources.
When I first started hunting, I always hunted in the middle of the woods, and I did see deer, but they weren't mature.
Right. It's all about hunting the edge. Those deer live on that edge. I hope you learned something from the video. I know I learned that I want to kill a certain doe that is living on a point.
I would too.
Right? But really, if you're on the public lands and flat land around water, it's really about that edge. They really want to bed in that thick, brushy, wet stuff, and they don't want to move far. If you're hunting in the woods and you're hunting based on sign or food, probably not going to happen.
It's all about the edge.
Later.
See ya.
Check out that edge terrain over there. See how that solid woods has that transition to dogwood, to grass, to muck. You hear that? You think the deer would be bedding right in that grass on the edge. Really, dude? What can I say? Even Trump wears tie-dye waders. He can't walk in them, but he wears them. What are you doing? Stick to politics, man. You can't even walk through a swamp? What kind of politician are you? And there you have it.